Have you noticed that many people live with Shih Tzus for years, yet still misunderstand them in a very natural way? Not because they lack love, but because so many things about dogs were never taught correctly. They were passed along by word of mouth, repeated over and over, and slowly turned into truths. And those things that seem right are quietly making the relationship between people and their Shih Tzus more tense every day. There is a moment I see again and again. A Shih Tzu growls, the owner snaps, "Stop!" even scolds them, thinking it's bad behavior. But if you live with dogs long enough, you realize a very uncomfortable truth. Growling is the last moment they are still calm enough to communicate with you. When a Shih Tzu growls, their body is saying, "I'm not okay," not, "I want to start trouble." And if you shut down that signal, next time, there may be no warning at all, just action. I've seen too many cases of, "I don't know why he bit," when every sign had been there before, just ignored. Then there's the belief that once a Shih Tzu gets old, that's it, they can't learn anymore. But if you've lived long enough with this breed, you'll see the opposite. Older dogs aren't slow because they're less intelligent. They're slow because they're attached to familiar rhythms. When you change things gently and patiently, senior Shih Tzus often learn very quickly, sometimes with even better focus than puppies. They're not hyperactive, not easily distracted, and they pay very close attention to your emotions. What surprises people most isn't that the dog learns a new trick, but the realization that all this time, they hadn't been teaching in a way the dog could actually understand. There's another misunderstanding that sounds harmless but runs deep. When a Shih Tzu leans against you, many people assume it always means affection. But that's not always true. Sometimes a Shih Tzu leans on you because they're worried, unsure about what's happening around them. For a small, sensitive breed like the Shih Tzu, finding a point of support is a survival reflex. If you look closely, you'll notice times when they lean in softly, completely relaxed, and other times when their body is stiff, slightly trembling. The behavior looks the same, but the meaning is entirely different. Many people are also taught that dogs need a leader, that you have to be strict, firm, dominant. But Shih Tzus don't live by dominance logic. They live by how safe their body feels when they're near you. You don't need to be an alpha. You need to be predictable. Speak less, but clearly. Be stable rather than aggressive. For a Shih Tzu, consistency is more powerful than any command. And perhaps the most misunderstood moment of all is when a Shih Tzu brings you a toy. A human's instinct is to throw it, to play. But sometimes a Shih Tzu places the toy down and just stands there, looking at you. No exaggerated tail wagging, no pressure. They're not asking to play. They're sharing something they consider valuable, or simply asking for attention, to be seen, to be acknowledged. For a Shih Tzu, toys aren't just for play. They're emotional bridges. If you're living with a Shih Tzu, I'd really like you to pause for a moment and think, which behavior has bothered you the most, but you still don't truly understand why it happens? Leave a comment, not to judge right or wrong, but to look at it together from the perspective of your dog's body and emotions. Because when you stop trying to fix your Shih Tzu and start listening to how they respond to the world, the relationship changes, quietly, without complicated training. Just understanding a little more, and for a Shih Tzu, that already means everything. There is one thing very few Shih Tzu owners realize until they've lived with them long enough. Many so-called behavior problems don't actually start with the dog. They start with human rhythms. Shih Tzus are incredibly quick at reading the emotional atmosphere. When a home feels tense, schedules become irregular, emotions rise and fall unpredictably, a Shih Tzu's body reacts before you even have time to explain why. They may become clingier, quieter, or repeat certain behaviors that leave you confused. Not because they're bad dogs, but because they're trying to adapt to an unstable environment. So many people message me asking, "Why does my Shih Tzu keep staring at me lately?" And the answer is usually not found in the dog, but in what has changed in your life recently. Working later hours, talking less, or simply bringing stress home with you. Shih Tzus don't understand jobs, money, or deadlines. What they understand is breathing, tone of voice, footsteps. When those things change, they pay closer attention, not to control you, but to regain a sense of safety. Another important point, Shih Tzus aren't stubborn the way many people assume. They simply don't respond well to pressure. The more you rush them, the slower they move. The harsher your tone, the more they avoid you. But when you slow down, speak less, and keep your routines clear, Shih Tzus cooperate in a very natural way. No yelling, no intimidation. You just become someone who looks the same to them every single day. If you're living with a Shih Tzu, try observing one very small thing today. When does your dog look the most relaxed? Is it when you're sitting quietly? When the house is calm? Or when everything follows a familiar rhythm? Leave a comment and share that moment. You might notice something you've never paid attention to before. And if these reflections help you see your Shih Tzu from a different angle with less judgment and more listening, subscribe to the channel. This channel is for people who raise real dogs, live with them every day, and want to understand them through real experience, not recycled tips. We'll continue talking about the small but important things your Shih Tzu has been trying to tell you, things no one ever pointed out to you before. Before this video comes to an end, I want you to hold on to one very small but very real thing, not as a Shih Tzu care tip and not as a rule you need to remember or follow correctly. Just a different way of looking at a relationship you may be living with every day, but rarely stop to name. Shih Tzus don't come into your life to prove whether they are good or bad. They don't live to please humans. What a Shih Tzu does throughout its life, very quietly, is reflect the emotional state of the person beside them. When you are steady, they relax. When you are rushed, unpredictable, or carry too much stress home, their body tightens as well. Not because they understand the reason, but because they sense the shift before words ever appear. Many people try to fix Shih Tzu behavior with techniques, commands, discipline, but with this breed, what truly makes a difference is not how much more you do, but how much less you do wrong. Less yelling, less pushing, less forcing human logic onto a body that lives by safety instincts. When they are no longer placed in a constant state of defense, Shih Tzus naturally soften, cooperate more easily, and become far more affectionate. Living with a Shih Tzu, at some point you realize this is not just a story about dogs. It's a story about presence. Whether you are truly there, whether you are consistent, whether you are slow enough for both bodies to breathe in the same rhythm, and when you reach that point, you don't just understand your Shih Tzu better, you begin to understand yourself as well. If this video makes you want to look at your Shih Tzu a little longer tonight, not to train or correct them, but simply to be near them, then that is already enough. We'll meet again in future stories where the smallest details of life with dogs are spoken as they truly are, quiet but real.